Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about bubbles in the tub. Let's talk about making love. Let's talk about, you on top.
I didn't know I was gonna stop there.
Or me going down.
Wanna have a little phone sex, baby.
Hey.
On the hotline.
Hey.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Good Intentions Podcast. It's your girl, Cassie.
And it's your girl, Giddy. Giddy.
Hey, hey, hey. So we're back today with another episode, and guess what we're talking about?
Sex.
Baby. So, I don't know if you guys could hear, but we do have some new voices, some voices joining us, and we're super excited. So first, let me introduce our first guest. This is my dog, Sharon. Say hey, Sharon.
Hey, guys.
And Sharon, how would you describe yourself relating to sex?
Well, personally, I guess I would say I'm a low-key freak.
Okay.
Low-key. But other people would say that I'm a nympho or a freak. But I don't think I am because I don't think I've reached those levels. So I'm going to say I'm a low-key freak.
She likes sex, y'all.
And we can't wait to hear all about that. And then we also have with us Lucinda, a sex therapist in training. Say hey, girl.
Hola.
Talk to us. Tell us about yourself.
There's not much to say. I'm an open book. But when it comes to sex, I love sex, learning why people have sex, the history behind sex, how to help people become more open with sex, especially women.
Oh, we love that. So it sounds like we're about to have a great episode, and we're so excited to have you guys here. Thank you guys so much for coming. So let's get to it.
So my first question is, because, I like sex too, but, I have a kid, so I slow down a little bit. For you, Lucy, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so what exactly is a sex therapist? Because I know a lot of our listeners might not know what that is.
Okay, so a sex therapist can be a psychiatrist, a therapist, a counselor, or a licensed clinical social worker who took extra classes, certification in just sex and sexual history, sexual education, and they work with people to teach them about their bodies and help them overcome different sexual issues that they may have single or in a relationship in general.
That sounds so dope. Like, how did you get interested in that?
Okay, so like in high school, I loved reading Zane books and I loved talking about sex and stuff. And I was just like, I know there has to be something that has to do with it. So I got to college and I switched to being a psychology therapist, counseling major. I was just like, I'm pretty sure there has to be something that has to do with sex. And then I started doing some research, and I researched and found that they had clinical sexologists and sexual therapists. They're not like sex surrogates. Sex surrogates actually have sex with people to help teach them about their bodies. But therapists, they help people on a mental aspect, opening up sexually. And I was just like, this sounds perfect for me since I love it.
That sounds so dope. Like, do your parents and, like, your friends and stuff, do they support that? Or do they respect your career? Or
my friends support it. They saw this coming. My mom, she took a little bit of time to get used to it. Haitian parents, talking to them about sex and stuff. She still tells me my little sister came from God, like,
amen.
But she also will tell me, hey, when you were a baby, this is how your sister was born. Wait, pause. I didn't know that was in the womb and I was asleep. You went too far. So she's becoming more open now that I'm older.
Okay. So Sharon, talk to us. How would you say that you earned your, and I'm putting this in air quotes, I wish you guys could see me, her low-key but really high-key freak. Talk to us.
I guess when it comes to talking about sex with my friends, I'm an open book, but I tend to be reserved around other people. So if I'm interested in something, or even when we play Never Have I Ever, I'll be the first one out. Or like some of the things I'll say in our chats will be like, don't look at me like, what the heck, Sharon? It's because I'm interested in things. I'm curious. I mean, I would have a threesome. I'm really down for one.
Male listeners. That's what
A female and a male.
Oh, right. So
Not two guys, a female and a male.
okay, so followers, if you listen.
Why two girls
No,
and
like,
one guy
two girls.
as opposed to two guys and you?
I guess I'm still like, apprehensive about that whole running a train thing. So I know people say that two guys and one girl is not a train. But for me, it's still like wired in my head. There's still some conditionings that I have to break down when it comes to sex. So for me, like two guys penetrating me is not, I'm not with that. But I would definitely have a threesome with a guy and a girl. I would go to a swingers club. However, I was invited. I've been invited twice. The first time I declined because he told me we were going to have sex there. And I barely knew the person, and I didn't want to sleep with him. But I wanted to see what the environment was like. But after talking to someone, he was like, if you're not going to participate, you shouldn't really go. So I was like, I was turned down from that. But I guess the reason why I have that title, air quotes, is because how open I am and how expressive and the things that I've tried or I'm willing to try. However, it took a while because growing up, again, I am Haitian. So like being told you can't have sex before marriage, you can't do this, you can't do that. It took me so long to actually be comfortable with my sexuality because there are things that I was beating myself up about when it comes to sex. So, like, I'm in a much more comfortable space. I still have, like, time to grow, but I'm becoming more open with my sexuality. So
I love
me too.
What she said about like you know what I'm gonna say. What you like?
Go ahead, girl.
Okay, I was gonna say I love how you talk about it being a growing process and breaking down the conditions that society has put on sex, and you being aware of that. I think with sex we just see it's such black and white, but that's why I'm so happy to have you ladies here because we touched upon it in the last episode about women being finally given a space to be liberated and really enjoy sex, even have conversations about sex. So I'm really glad you guys are here.
I think I admire how open you guys are too, just being in tune with yourselves and experimenting and knowing what it is that you want and what you like and how you want to be pleasured or pleased. That's very important, and I love that.
Right.
That's where I'm trying to be.
Well, maybe
I
they
ain't
could
there
give
yet.
us some tips. They could tell us some things that, we could be doing differently. So I have a question for both of you guys. When it comes to sex, what is one thing what is like your disclaimer for sex? If that makes sense. What is your motto or what you want people to gain from sex? Talking about sex, anything.
Oh, you mean talking and having sex or just having sex?
About sex in general,
Yeah,
so whatever you want.
You can go first.
Okay, so for me, when it comes to talking about sex, I would say don't be so quick to judge somebody. And that was something I had to learn when I got older. I don't call women hoes. I don't use that term at all. I don't even use bitches and hoes at all. It might slip out when I'm angry, but I don't use hoes. I don't call females hoes. I don't care about their body counts, none of that. Do not judge somebody. Get to know where they came from, their past, and why they are the way they are, and be accepting of that. So if you don't know, be quiet. That's it. If she's doing all of that, maybe there's a reason why she's doing that. Some people are liberated, and that's okay. Just as how men can have 60 partners, 700 partners, women can do the same too, and people need to stop tearing each other down. When it comes to the physical, I know I've seen posts on Facebook where it'll be you have $5 to build a perfect man, and it'll be loyal, good sex game, blah, blah, blah. And I feel when people say you can teach someone to have good sex, I know it's hard, but it is very possible. Before you give up on somebody's sex game or talk about their size or this or that, learn to have them work with what your body likes so you can be satisfied by them. Okay, he doesn't have a big dick, but that's okay. We're going to work with it. Or he can't give oral right. it's okay. I will teach him, or I can't do this right. Like, it's a learning thing when you're having sex with somebody. So I feel like it's just learning about somebody and doing what's comfortable to the both of you.
I totally agree.
I like that.
And I think even with you saying that, it goes back to you knowing what you want and what works for you.
Exactly.
You know, you can't give tips and pointers if you don't know how you want to be pleased.
Okay, so talking about it, I'm going to use the quote that I was about to give y'all, which is to stay curious. When I heard...
Boss quote of the day.
Yeah, like I love Dr. Lindsay Doe and her sexplanation videos. When I first was looking up being a sexologist and sex therapist, she was one of the first ones I looked up. And
What's her name again? Sorry to cut you off.
Dr. Lindsay Doe.
Okay.
Yes. So when I first started listening to her, her favorite thing to say is stay curious, stay curious. So I think in talking about sex and having these discussions, I think that's super important to do. If you're not curious, you're never going to learn. You're going to be stuck inside this box of what sex is, what society tells you sex is versus what you can make it, because sex can be anything you make it. Physically, I'd say use your mouth. Like, talk about what you like, talk about what you need to feel pleasure. Because
I was thinking something different.
I mean, you take it both ways. But everyone's body is different, so no one's going to be able to please you off with. No one is perfect. No matter how good of a sex game there is, there's going to be something that you may like that they might not do. So if you don't open your mouth and find a way, even if you don't want to verbally communicate, but find a way to communicate your needs, your wants. There's so many games out there, toys and stuff, that can help you express different sexual activities you want to do, different sexual activities you want to try, you're open to try.
How can one train their partners to please them the way that they want to be pleased when they're not comfortable with their bodies?
When the partner's not comfortable?
When the person themselves are not comfortable with their own body and how they look.
You gotta make love to yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely
Elaborate.
agree.
Like, okay, there's, especially for women, but also men, exploring yourself, touching and feeling and just learning what you personally like helps you gain confidence in your own body, learning to love yourself. On Instagram, Afro Sexology, they actually have a workbook that teaches you and has a whole bunch of worksheets where you learn about your body, gives you activities that you use to learn about your body. And if you're not okay with touching yourself yet, they have stuff that you just look at yourself and you learn to appreciate yourself and your body.
Y'all, she is dropping them gems.
Make sure
have
you got a
phones
notebook,
ready.
something. This is free tea.
No, that's something I said I wanted to work more on, because I have some friends that are so comfortable with, like, you know, buying vibrators and, like, masturbating. But I learned that there's other ways to masturbate versus that. And I said I wanted to become more comfortable, like, you know, masturbating down there, because I'll touch other areas of my body for pleasure because I'm sensitive. So anything, you know, gets me going. But I said I wanted to be more comfortable with self-pleasure down there, so I really, really know, like, okay, if I'm sleeping with you, this is what I really want you to do. And I actually had a partner who would, like, stop, and he'd be like, I want you to touch yourself and tell me how you like it so I can please you. Right? He would make me masturbate for him, and I'd be like, oh my God.
Partnered solo play is so good to learn about your body with a partner.
Wow.
You guys are dropping straight gems.
What?
And we're
Back to
speechless, and
back.
it's hard for us to be speechless, but we really love what you guys are talking about. So I guess my next question is, you know, when you're first getting intimate with someone, how do you bring up sex? You know, just even like what you're expecting from the other person, things like that. How would that conversation start?
I think it depends on you and where you are with that person. Like, if y'all just men, y'all not going to start talking about sex off with.
Right.
But I know there's, who was it, G.L. Lambert. He said a way to throw people off when you're first getting to know them is just to jump into that. And Shan Boojum said the same thing. When you're on your, like, first date, if you just say, what pleases you? It's like, wait, what? But it also builds the connection with each other, because now y'all have that barrier broken. Like, y'all just gonna start talking about it. And for me, I'm childish. I like games. I have 1,000,001 different games
Girl,
to
what
talk
games
about.
you be? Ooh, tell us, please.
Ooh, I just had my birthday party, right? So we always playing Who's the Biggest Pervert at the Party, which is a game where you pull out a card, someone reads what's on the card, and can say, ever had a threesome? It's kind of basically never have I ever been drinking. And if you've done it, you drink. If no one's done it, the person who put the card drinks.
Oh.
And for individual, there's like, what game did I have? I have like 51 games. Buzzed.
I need to borrow them.
Yeah, I have a whole show. And then where it just asks different questions, and they have like easy questions like, have you ever prank called someone? Truth or Dare is one of my favorite games in the world. I have it on my phone where it just asks simple questions with the more sexual questions, so it's kind of loosen up a little bit.
This is like off topic, but do you live at home?
I do.
Where do you keep these toys and games?
I have a bookshelf in my room.
So
Your mom don't
they
see
know
a
not to
bookshelf?
touch it?
I don't
Like,
get it.
I mean, well, all my siblings are grown. They're all over 18. Well, the youngest who lives in the house just turned 18. And she's curious, but she hasn't had sex until she waited till she was like 17 or whatever. But she's curious, so I would teach her what she wants to know, because when it comes to kids, you don't teach them off whip. It's when they show their curiosity. They're at the age where you should teach them. A lot of people try to say, you're too young to know this. But if they're asking you,
they're curious.
they need, like I was a teacher, and I had a little kindergartner who she knew a lot. So guess what? She was on the playground. We had to keep away from other kids. Like, did you know? Da, 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 da. So if your child is asking you, they know something. You need to educate them at that level. But then my mom, she'll come in, she sees all my games on the wall. I have like a couple like vibrators toys. Those stay in a black bag wrapped up, away. But board games and stuff, those are on the shelf.
No, I like what you said about teaching like the kids when they show curiosity, because recently my older sister was telling me about a situation with my niece, and then she was like, you talk to her, you tell her all of this, and in the back of my mind I'm like, what is okay for me to say? Because I know when I'm a parent and I want to have that conversation with my kids, obviously I'm going to have to talk to their dad and see what's okay. But I want to be transparent. Like, I want them to know everything I've done from the time I've lost my virginity until, like, I met their dad. Like, I don't want to hold nothing back, because they're going to be curious just like I was. So I want to be open with them. So I thought about that. Kids need to know. Not, like, forced on them, but they have to know the truth.
Yeah,
and
you
not
just
to keep
got to
them
filter
away.
it something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know someone, she was telling me how her 9-year-old daughter was looking up girls kissing. And she's like, oh my God, she's going to be gay, this and that. I'm just like, first of all, you don't know what your daughter's going to be. Second of all, if she's Googling it, she might have some curiosity. Ask her, hey, why are you looking it up? What's your interest in it? And then talk to her on that level. You don't have to go 500 deep in, like, oh, this isn't this. No, what's your questions? Answer her questions openly, honestly. If she has more questions, she can come to you. And a lot of people are uncomfortable talking to their kids about that. And when you're uncomfortable now, your kids are uncomfortable. So guess where they're going to go? Other places.
And Google. Could you imagine if we had Google access back like we have it now, and I was going there and answering my sex questions? I'd probably be freaked out.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
I was telling her, like, one thing she could do to help herself get comfortable and her child get comfortable is make a safe place. So it's like, okay, when this happens, if we close the door and we say safe place, you can ask me all of your sexual questions you have, and I will answer them openly, honestly, no judgment. I am not your mom. I'm your auntie. I'm your friend. Because a lot of parents, they're like, I'm your mom. You should not be asking me this. So I'm not your mom at this moment. Because it's easier to talk to other people's kids than it's talk to your own kids.
Yes. Louder, please.
Yeah. And then when you leave that room, though, if I find something happen outside that room, then that's a whole nother story. But inside that room, you can tell me anything, no judgment, no punishment, no nothing.
Very, very well said. So I guess my next question is, we talk about parenting here a lot and, our future moving forward. So you guys being so sex positive, you touched upon this a little bit. How do you see you raising your kids? And Lucy's smiling. I don't know. So I'm sure she's thought about this.
What do you want to answer first?
Well, I mean, I already said that when it comes to talking about sex, I'm going to be open with them when they're at that age when they want to ask me. Because growing up, I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest on my mom's side and the youngest on my dad's side. My oldest sibling is like in his 40s. And my sisters got pregnant in high school, both of them. So, like, the only thing I heard was wait till marriage to have sex. Don't get pregnant like your sisters. Don't get pregnant like your sisters. I made it without getting pregnant. But I definitely had sex before marriage. However, I wish that I had more education on not just sex, but relationships, like soul ties and all of that. I didn't get that. I didn't learn that until I got older. Some of it in the church, some of it outside of the church. But I wish I had a much more healthier conversation with my mom about life in general. However, I'm not upset with her about it because that's how she was conditioned. Yes. So it's like, okay, I see where things didn't go right in my childhood, so let me learn off of that and correct it for my kids so that when they have kids, they pass it on correctly.
Oh, we love that. Sounds like you're being intentional. What about you, Miss Lucinda?
I'm the opposite. I'm the oldest of a whole bunch of kids, so I was basically the mama, but I never had no one to turn to at all when it comes to sex or anything because, parents wasn't going to tell me nothing. Everything I learned from reading Zane books. Like this one, I love Zane, okay? And Allison Hobbs, I love her too. So I learned from them. I learned from kids at school. It was like, Lucy, you know what sex is? No. Okay, so we're in the church, and guess what? Pamphlets. I'm like, what is this? So I wanted to be a sex-positive home. I wanted to be open where they can ask me questions when they have questions, when they're ready to ask me questions. I'm not going to do none of that hiding like, oh, that's going people's business, you don't even know. Like, no, I want you to learn. And when it comes to relationships, same way. All I saw was toxic relationships growing up, like no healthy relationships. And I think that kind of shaped into how I am now. And I'm trying to break those habits. So I would want my children to see healthy relationships, talk to them about what a healthy relationship looks like, whether it's with your friends, going into relationships, going into romantic relationships, or just if you want outright just romantic relationships, because kids nowadays are curious younger and younger.
Younger. Do you think they're able to process the information? Because now they're given more mature information at a younger age. So then how do we, as adults, as parents, even as people who work with children in school, how do we help them process these different things?
Well, you know your kids when it's your kids. School-wise, you know your students to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, you have to go to the parents.
Correct.
Yeah, but at their age, there's actually I forgot who posted it, but age appropriate. I think Lindsay Doe did that too, and Shan Boudin posted it. It's an age appropriate guideline to what kids should know sexually. So at a young age, they know different genders, they know about their body. I forgot, like elementary school age, they know about different friendships. They know about male-female friendships. That's the age where they start playing mommy and daddy. Right. They play house and stuff, and they may experiment a little bit. Middle school, there's a lot of more experimentation. There's sometimes same-sex experimentation where you and your friends are like all hugging, and you guys might practice. Oh, let's practice what kissing is like. That doesn't mean your child's going to turn out a certain way. It just means they're just being curious. So at different ages, they show different activities, and you probably know yourself what kind of things you were into, because I'm looking at my past sometimes. I'm like, I didn't realize I was actually partaking in learning about sexual activity before I knew what it was, looking into my history. So looking at your background and things that you were interested in and how that might show in your kids will help you know, okay, if I could understand this, perhaps my kid could understand this, so maybe I should explain it in this way. And there's always videos.
How do you, how do you explain to a child about sex who's already been sexually active? How do you have that conversation?
Especially nowadays, I feel like sex education is so abstinent friendly. They're not teaching that. So that's a great question after the fact. How do you, and even like rebuild their image from sex? I feel like sometimes we don't have the greatest first experience, so we think of sex as so negative. It's da-da-da. So how do you rebuild that?
That goes back to learning about your own body and your own pleasure, because yes, your first time is usually not the best. So after you have sex, just, okay, how do you protect yourself? Make sure you have knowledge of that, because that's number one, protection, different protection methods. How do you want to go about that? how do you get tested? Where can you go get tested? If you don't want to go with me, where can you go on your own? Because like Planned Parenthood in Boca, actually, if you're under the age of 17, you can get tested for free without a parent consent.
Huh?
Yeah,
Interesting. I didn't know that.
You can also get birth control for free without a parent's consent at Planned Parenthood in Boca. Not all of them do that, though. So just letting them know where they can get protection, where they can feel safe, and letting them, okay, what do you want to know? You can come to me. We can talk about different ways and learn about your body. What do you like? Because at the end of the day, that one sexual experience doesn't speak for all the sexual experiences you may have in your life. And the greatest sexual experience is going to be the one you have with yourself, because you going to know your body better than anyone else.
So, like, this is, I think my question was geared more so for, like, the elementary school kids. Because, I mean, we both work in a school, and some of our kids are active in elementary.
I know.
So, like, when they come to us or come to me, I would like to know of, like, a way to approach them where it's, like, age appropriate.
But they already had sex?
Yes.
Like consensual.
Anything.
Girl, they had sex.
They're not at the age to give consent to have sex.
Right.
Whether it's with the same age peer or not. So talking to them about, first of all, did you initiate? Were you the one who really wanted to do this? And what was the reasoning why you wanted to go through with this act all the way? Because a lot of times people, they may have just seen someone else do it. I remember when I was like in elementary and we had the library, they're like, oh, these people having sex in the back of the library. All the kids running back there. So is it just something that you saw other people do? How do you feel about it? Okay, from there, explain to them what consent is, what age appropriate consent is.
Right.
And yes, you've already done this activity. Maybe you should take some time out. Don't engage in it again because you may not have enjoyed it. You probably didn't enjoy it, but we don't know that. But if you didn't enjoy it, just take some time out to yourself, wind it back. We learn about yourself, your body, even though it's grown, but they already did it. So at that point, it's just like, okay, you already did it. We can't really take that back from you. We understand that you did it as long as we know it was consent, that you can't give consent, but it wasn't like forced on you. Like you kind of saw it and you wanted to engage in it. So now we can talk about different activities you can do instead of engaging in that behavior. But the big thing is just learning, where did it come from?
Right. So when I used to work at this agency back in Broward, on Thursday I would go to these meetings called child on child sexual meetings. So pretty much it was at DCF, actually BSO, their headquarters on Cypress, and they would meet and discuss sex where minors were having sex with minors. So pretty much if you're under the age, whatever the age is, I'm not quite sure if it's 18 or that's 16. 16. And there's any report that you've had sex with someone else the same age or older but still a minor, it would get reported. Oh, wow. Immediately it needs to be reported, and then there's a full-on investigation. And it's so interesting, like a lot of it I would hear would be at daycare. Whether with another student at the daycare. And a lot of that, like you said, it's what's happening in the home. Why is a 5-year-old acting this way? But there's also, like you talked about, appropriate sex behavior that a lot of times that we take as there's something wrong, like even showing their body parts sometimes. That's age appropriate. So just a fact.
Yeah, and they're curious too.
Right.
I think it starts at like age 2. They're like curious about
even their own bodies and all these different things. Yeah,
I've heard that. Like when the little boy discovers that he has one,
it feels good.
Yeah, it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Little girls do the same thing. Little girls may like touch themselves and not realize it just it feels good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so we're human beings.
Right.
We explore our bodies from a very young age, and I don't know where I was going with that.
Some people explore a little further than they should.
Right. This is why she's the pre-sex therapist.
So we like to end our episodes with like our intentions. Basically, what are we going to be more intentional about? Moving forward. So we're going to ask around the table, what do you guys want to be more intentional regarding sex? Starting with Gitna.
We're starting with the guys.
Okay. I hope y'all. Gitna was ready. Gitna was ready for me because she didn't. Go ahead.
Right now, where I'm at in my life is just breaking down different sexual barriers I have mentally, especially because I'm learning more about like societal norms that are placed that hurt females when it comes to sex. And even though in my head I'm liberated, in the subconscious, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And that little angel in the back of you that's there. So just becoming more aware of those barriers and breaking them down and learning more about my body, because like I didn't learn to masturbate until like this year. Literally, I bought my first vibrator this year. But I've always been curious, but I've never been like, I don't masturbate, I don't need that. But learning, hey, this is okay to learn about my body and just getting more information, learning more.
Well said.
Okay, sounds like you was in my head. But basically the same thing, because like I said earlier, I used to beat myself up so much about, you know, the conditions that society places on us, like, you know, body count and like how hyperactive you are with sex. Because, you know, I can be a rabbit. Right now I've slowed down, but like I used to always want to do it. Like that's just how I was. So I'm learning to be more comfortable with my sexuality. I want to learn how to please myself more and how to not beat myself up if I have a thought or if I want to do something. I have to be more happy and confident. Like, this is what I like. This is who I am. Not talk disgustingly about myself. So basically what Lucy said.
I think same goes for me too. Just listening to you guys speak, I would like to just understand my body parts more and just figure myself out more and what I like and what I don't like and how I want to be pleased and whatnot. So, yes.
So once again, to piggyback off the same horse. No, I think, you know, I just always want to do better. So like you said, even educating myself a little bit more, even you mentioning these worksheets, all these different things, like I've always had this concept about sex that I'm realizing is not as healthy as it needs to be, you know. So reforming my vision and what it means to be liberated in my mind as well, not just my body. So yeah.
That part. I think just being Haitian and just the way that we were raised, you don't talk about that. So like you're not gonna sit around the table and just openly
even this conversation,
have a conversation.
It's so well needed, but it's, to me it's so uncomfortable. Like I'm like, ooh.
Girl, I was quiet the whole time.
Once again, and that's hard to have as quiet because we just be.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Do you guys get like offended by the question, like if your partner or somebody you're talking to asks about your body count?
Okay, so for me, it's up and down because I'm in a group chat with some friends and they also have a podcast, and like a lot of the guys are like, that's not important. I'm like, okay, that's not important to you, but there are some guys that don't like it. For me, it was up and down because in the past I've had guys who was like, I don't care, I just want to know for your experience. But in my last relationship, it was an issue because like I was a bit higher than him. And he shamed me, and I, like, retreated back into that place where I felt so disgusted with myself. Mind you, I went into the relationship with him seeking validation to have sex with a partner to not look bad. So when I told him about that, he made me feel like shit. And I was just like... But now, like I said, I'm getting to a place where I'm more accepting of it. Like, yeah, I did it. I can't take it back. I gain experience from it. So it depends. But the first thing I do, like, ask is, are you going to judge me? If so, I'm going to tell him I'm a lie. I'm not going to tell him because some guys will throw it back.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Like, they really will throw it back on you. And even if they know you're lying, I don't care. It's not your business. At the end of the day, you should be focusing on us, not what I had before, unless you want to know as far as like my experience goes. If that's not the case, if you're going to throw it back in my face, why are you asking me?
Right. Okay, I'm a little petty. I am. And I know my response when people ask me a question is petty, but it's also an honest thing because I feel like I'm going to educate you. So when someone asks me that, I'm like, I think the question you should be asking me is, am I clean? Can you see my paperwork? Because I can have sex with the one person and catch it something. I can have sex with 50 people and be the cleanest person because people don't realize like the porn industry has the lowest rates of STDs versus other people. So I'm very quick to say, you're asking me the wrong question. The correct question is, can you see my paperwork? Am I clean?
I think you made a very good point, because I used to be on the body count thing too, and I used to be stuck on that, especially for guys. Oh, you a man whore, you got all these bodies. But now you make it very clear. I don't care. Where are the paperworks? Where are the updated paperworks?
Yes. Updated keyword.
Right. Okay. Don't show me that from 6 months ago. We don't want that. I don't want that.
What if they haven't done anything in 6 months?
Go again, because some things don't show up until real late, dormant. I want to update.
Every 3 months.
As women, like, how do you guys feel about labels? Because automatically, if you had sex with, let's say, 5 males or whatever, oh, she's a whore. Oh, she's this or she's that. You know, how do you feel about it? I know Sharon briefly mentioned a little bit about it, but, like, I think that's why I've always played it safe, because I'm like, I don't want to be labeled as a hoe. I don't want them to be like, you know?
Like Sharon brought up, I can't stand females being called HOEs. I can't stand the word thought, because in my head, there's no quantifiable measure for this. I was called a thought, and I'm like, I never had sex.
Right.
Just because I like to dance the way I dance. I like to twerk. I like to dance on people, and all of a sudden I'm a thought. So I personally hate labels, and I feel like we need to drop those labels, or like Amber Rose is trying to do her slut walk.
I love it.
Because it's stupid. Like, everyone's definition of a thought or HOE is different. And this is a scientist in me. If you don't have a quantifiable measure for it, it don't exist. It's your opinion, okay?
Well, I'm going to still say someone's mom's a thought when they cut me off in traffic.
But, like, with people labeling you as a thought, maybe maybe they see in you what they aspire to be, and because they can't be their self, you know, their authentic self, they're calling you whatever it is.
Yeah, their opinion.
Right.
Yeah. They not comfortable in their sexuality. They're not comfortable with their bodies to just go out. And I've got so many dirty looks. I was called so many names. People used to think, oh, she's drunk. This and that. I'm like, I used to be sober, turning up, living my best life. Y'all calling me names and stuff. But it's just because they're not comfortable. Society's not comfortable with liberated women. So we got to find a way to bring them down.
Say that again.
It's a process of growth, because, like, even 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't be having this conversation, because I'd be like, still closed up. I would have it with friends, but not in an open space like this, because I'm scared of what people are going to think about me. So it's a growth process. And, you know, everybody's taking their time with growing. So maybe one day we'll be in a society where people are open and free to talk about anything, free of judgment.
I want to say it's definitely gotten better. Even you guys, even us having this episode, there's a bunch of different podcasts. Shout out to Horrible Decisions, my favorite podcast, and Cocktails too. But it's become more normalized. Women who are liberated are still called hoes, this, that, and the third, but they have a platform where people like us, we could go and we look. If we have questions, it's already addressed. It's definitely a safer place for us than it was 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, I was confused.
5 years ago, I was a virgin. I was a virgin up until 2017 when Sky came.
I mean, look, even lip service.
Yes.
Yo, Angela Yee. And then, like, one of my friends, she introduced me to this podcast called Laid Bare. It's based out of the UK. And one of the episodes I was listening to, it was just so graphic, but it was about sex. And I was just like, wow. Like, and it's people of color. I love that, too. You know, like, they have a voice, and they're actually openly talking about these things. Like, we have a platform to talk about anything and feel liberated. So I love that.
The field of sex therapy and sexology is actually still a relatively brand new field, and it's rapidly growing, but it literally just came about maybe 50 years ago, 60 years ago, with the advent of birth control, where people are like, okay, now we can start exploring our sexuality. Women, until birth control, women was still closed off. So this is all new, and it's really growing fast now if you look at it.
So do you see more individuals or couples?
Individuals. Right now I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist, and I work with different people, different topics, but I do have a lot of clients who have sexual trauma, sexual abuse, and I work with them with their sexuality, and I have some who are just hypersexual, and I talk with them and help them as well.
So what does the treatment plan look like?
Learning to talk about what happened to you. That's the biggest thing, is being open about what happened to you, how it has affected you, and once you're able to identify the ways that it's affected you, what can we do to break those barriers in your mind? Because the same way we all have barriers from society, when you've been sexually traumatized, now you have brand new barriers. I can't do this, I can't do that. Or you may be hypersexual, like, since someone took this from me, I'm going to just give it away. I'm going to just give everything away because I don't want them to take it from me. So just helping them find their balance. So treatment plan is just more so talking, worksheets, reading, doing different activities, role play and stuff where you can let go of what happened and find a way to turn it into a strength.
I love what you just said. Like, since somebody took it from me, I'm just going to give it all back. And that goes back to, like, the reason why some people might just want to just, you know, open their bodies. And then we're looking from the outside. It's like, oh, this person's a whore. This person, you don't know the reason behind it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because sex addiction is real. It is a real thing.
It's in that book.
Yeah, so Sharon gave me a book that I'm definitely excited to read, and maybe I'll tell you guys about it. It's called The Truth by Neil Strauss.
Yeah.
An eye-opening odyssey through love addiction, sex addiction, and extraordinary relationships. So I'll give it a try.
It is just a gem. Reading through that book, I was just like, wow, wow, wow. It talks about the conditions that society places on us, the barriers that women have, the viewpoints that people have when it comes to monogamy and, you know, open and polyamorous relationships, and how people feel like when they're in a monogamous relationship that they're constricted when in reality they're not, or even having like expectations on, you know, their partner, and they shouldn't have those types of expectations. So when I read it, I was just like, it's really good. I recommend it. And it makes me even want to, I mean, I already said I wanted to do this when the funds are right. I wanted to go to therapy, but that even makes me want to seek it more when it comes to like, you know, my childhood and how I like interact with others and how I interact with men, because it also touches on like how your childhood affects your relationship and how like the things your parents did to you may project onto how you treat your partner. So it's a good book.
All right, Sharon, you ain't getting that book back no time soon.
We about to do a whole book club. If y'all want to join a book club, let us know. Maybe we could do something like that.
Wait, I got like 3 other people that wanted to.
Oh, I read.
They're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, they'll have to wait because we have to do some feedback on this. We definitely have to go back and shit. I'm really excited.
I love this episode. This was really informative. Thank you so much, guys.
Gosh, it was really
gosh.
great.
Thank you for
guys.
your transparency and just your openness and shit. I love it.
Yeah, because we were going to do this episode, but I was like, I can't do this on myself.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be comfortable at all.
Yeah,
No.
Thank you guys so much. Tell them where to follow you.
Okay, my Instagram is LAUKISHA123. Lakeisha123 on Instagram.
Okay, mine's is She's Magic.
That's right. We like that.
Well, she's _ magic with 2 C's. And follow me. Please don't spam nothing.
Don't be sending her unsolicited pictures.
Yes, no, because I had a random guy just like, it says sapiosexual. And, you know, that means, like, you know, you love knowledge. But he was sending me pictures of his thing, and he was just like, you like this? And I was like, wait a minute, no.
People try to use a label to get in there.
Right.
Literally get in there.
Getting it with the jokes. And don't forget to follow me at QueenCast_X3.
And me at GiddyLoveJ1. And this podcast at Good Intentions Pod.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please send us your listener letters. We want to know about y'all business.
Y'all sex lives, like what y'all got going on. Y'all here listening to all of us and what we do and our little secrets. So we want to hear y'all's too.
So we should keep it. Hey, we sing along here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Good Intentions
Pod. Toodles.